Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it is the 10th day of March 2025, and welcome to our show. I had a nice break here for a couple of weeks. However, I was working on some very important things, and I think what's going to come out of the time that I had off is going to be very interesting because there are several investigations that I've been involved in, and I'm very, very excited just to bring that out, but the time isn't quite there yet. So we're going to be working on that here in the next couple of weeks, and I think you'd be pleasantly surprised by this. I'm going to bring on Vicky Davis right now. Hey, Vicky, how you doing?
Hi, just fine, thanks.
From Technocratic, Tyranny, and I'm glad to be back with you this morning. There was a lot of things that came up while I was off for a couple of weeks here, and I'm really pleasantly surprised to be able to bring some of this forward, especially having to do with the information on the 51st state being Canada. I had a call from a gentleman from Alberta this week who also is connecting me to an ex-prime minister of Canada so that we can talk about what actually has happened, what's been happening, and why there may be some merit to what President Trump has been saying in this direction. But there's so much going on. It's like your head's on a swivel all the time, right? After we're done this morning, Vicky, I have Julie Lavender on, and she is a children's book author, really approaching the whole issue of abortion and sanctity of life in a very creative, beautiful way to inspire that awe in children over babies, not that it's a in your way of a career type thing, but that babies are a sense of wonder and a beautiful thing. And as a mom, my best job I ever had in life was just being a mom. I love being a mom, and I love being a mom. It was fantastic. So we'll have Julie on at 10 o'clock. So anyhow, how are you this morning?
Just fine. I'm hoping that my machine doesn't misbehave. It kind of keeps freezing up. So if I freeze while we're talking, just know that I'll be back.
I'll be back. I love that. So I sent you a video, and it's The Myth is Canada, which I've talked to Doug Force before. He's been on our show, and I think it's really interesting. But I'm going to go ahead and read something. I need to repost my TikTok video this morning. And by the way, if you can jump on my TikTok page, it would be wonderful to see everybody there, because I think all of the integrated media is it's very important to get things out there to different people depending on where they look or where they listen to. But anyhow, let me read this to everybody out there so that they've got some basis of understanding, and then we'll launch into this because I know you know a lot about this. So in 1867, BNN Act was designed to create a system for Queen Victoria, a legitimate sovereign, to govern British North America through a legitimately empowered governor general. Although the name of the BNN Act was changed to the Constitution Act by those who benefited from its terms, it was never intended to become the constitution of an independent country. The BNN Constitution Act expired upon the death of Queen Victoria in 1901. Transfer of powers to all future heirs and successors was clearly and purposefully prohibited. The Statute of Westminster fully ended Britain's title to and governance of British North America. The Statute of Westminster did not transfer sovereignty to any federal government or individual. It transferred sovereignty to provinces. So all of us who are 10th Amendment advocates can relate to this. Now we're talking Canada, but I think it's the same thing for the United States. The purpose of transferring sovereignty to provinces was to empower them to hold constitutional conferences and then create a de jure federation of provinces. The only sovereign states can only sovereign states can federate. No conference has been held. There is no federation, no confederation, and no articles of confederation. In 1952, Queen Elizabeth declared herself to be Queen of Canada, a symbolic monarch without sovereignty. You are not sovereign if you don't own the land and its resources. In 1982, the Constitution proposed by the de facto federal government to form a de jure federation was not accepted by all provinces as required. Outrageously, the de facto federal government had a self declared symbolic monarch sign a rejected document and declare it to be Canada's new constitution. In 1987, the Meech Lake Accord was proposed to set a de jure federal government in place, but it was rejected by referendum. In 1992, the Charlottetown Accord was rejected by referendum. Canada continues a de facto federal system by consent and custom only. Many decisions in courts have recognized provincial sovereignty. The Federal Clarity Act is still in place, allowing any province to secede from the present system following a referendum vote of 50% plus one. Canada's de facto government recognized Kosovo's declaration of independence following a referendum. It would be difficult for Ottawa to deny recognition of the same action taken by a region such as Alberta. That's the basis of what we're talking about today. So, what do you know about this, Vicky? Because I think this is fairly significant. We've been talking about de facto versus de jure government on BNN for a long time. When this came out on Canada through Doug Force, and I hope he's feeling better. I know he's not feeling very well right now. I think it's kind of a wake-up call or something that we need to dive into to see if there's any legitimacy to the claims.
Well, probably you might be disappointed with what I think about it.
I won't be disappointed at all because I want to know the truth and I don't care what it is. And I think we need to listen to all sides of every argument.
I think this has been in the plans for a long time, since about 1937 or 38, when the British Commonwealth came up with a plan for a new, basically a world reorganization. And in a 1937 or 38 speech, Lord Lothian laid out the plan for a world organization that would consist of 3 or 4 or 5 major powers, and then all of the other countries would be under those continental powers. And as you follow this timeline, well, that really corresponds to what the UN is. And so, and I don't know why I didn't think to call it this before, but I'm going to start calling it the Commonwealth Plan. And so, the idea of the NAFTA agreement, which was to economically merge Canada, the United States, and Mexico, was like part one of it. Creating the World Trade Organization is a big part of it, because that is the body that handles, the policies and whatever for world trade. And one of the things that happened in, well, not just Idaho, but there's an organization called the Pacific Northwest Economic Region, which includes the Washington, Oregon. I gave you the timeline for it in the chat so you can see
I'll
it.
put it right up.
Yeah. But it's Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana and Alaska, and it includes the Canadian provinces all immediately above us, which includes Alberta, by the way.
Okay.
So if Alberta is now getting ready to declare independence, um, plus we've had a movement called Greater Idaho, which some Oregon counties, the rural Oregon counties, are allegedly trying to join up with Idaho. It appears to me that they are moving towards the finalization of breaking off or separating the Canadian provinces and the American provinces into an economic region, which is a organization of aggregated powers between corporations and state officials. And so it's the beginning of what I would call the breakup of the United States. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of questions that we certainly have to ask because it's been economic from day one. This is what the communists always do: is they grab land and they grab resources. That's what they're after in order to control the supply chains. Am I correct?
yes. And what has been happening to our economy um, is that it was the deindustrialization during the 1980s. And then George H.W. Bush, he's the one that kicked off the Enterprise of the Americas initiative, which began the negotiations on NAFTA. And what happened with the NAFTA agreement you don't have to be an economist to figure this out, that if labor in the United States is making $15 an hour and labor in Mexico is making like $1.60, that all of your industry is going to move south of the border, right? It's a no-brainer.
Well, unless of course they use our tax dollars to fund things like, say, oh, I don't know, Tyson, to pay the labor costs through inviting in illegal immigrants to take Americans' jobs. It's like, it just seems to me like there's always a game here. The only way that I see to fix it is to start arresting these bastards who are putting these laws in place. That's the only way to do it. We can't fight them on the chessboard that they have because they own all of it. And so in order to remove the game, it's going to have to be remove the players.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and change the game.
That was another thing that George H.W. Bush did, was to put in a whole list of visas, to bring in foreign direct investment, bring in foreign labor. And the thing is, with the 1983 La Paz Treaty, they created an international zone on the border that in that treaty, they reference, incorporation by reference, the 1972 human rights agreement that was that came out of the Stockholm Conference in 1972, and of course that was all about human rights and whatever. And it just happens to be that it was Maurice Strong of Canada that was the Secretary General of that conference. And so, but if you take a look at the whole thing, what's been happening, it's like movement of pieces on a chessboard. And if you go back to the beginning, to where it started, which I believe was 1938 with Lord Lothian, he's the one that explained what the plan would be. And I don't know why I didn't think to call it this when I wrote about it. but I would call it the Commonwealth Plan, which is to basically turn the big continental powers into a governing structure, a commonwealth for all of the people in that continental structure. And there were three of them to start with. It was China, Russia, and the United States. And then, of course, if you look at the United Nations Association, important word there, they also added Britain and France. Those were the original five powers. Britain and France, of course, were the colonial powers. And so if you look at their plan from which started really with the Atlantic Charter, which was the idea of Winston Churchill, for the U.S. and Great Britain to sign this Atlantic Charter. Out of that agreement came the United Nations. And so the plan for establishing a worldwide organizational structure for Commonwealth of Nations, with the three big continental powers leading, and then the colonial powers controlling the smaller countries, it all begins to make sense. And if you can understand step by step by step over a century, because the Fabian socialists have patience. They do strategic planning, and they are patient in carrying out the plan so as not to tip off anybody. That's really what has been happening to our country. They've been essentially expanding beyond our borders with the NAFTA agreement and the free trade area of the Americas agreement, and they've basically turned our government into what could be called a commonwealth.
Do you think that with Doge and President Trump at the helm right now, do you think that the tearing down and exposing all of this money laundering and nonsense that's gone on with USA, do you think that we're reversing this, or do you think we're still going down the same path?
I think we're still going down the same path. If you recall, Trump mentioned making Canada the 51st state. That could have been tongue in cheek, but he also mentioned Greenland. And so if you look at the whole continent, Greenland is, of course, would be part of that continental structure. I'll tell you something interesting. In the year, I think it was 2000, the U.S. minted a coin for Iceland, which is a very odd thing for the U.S. Mint to do. Typically they mint coins, of former presidents or, American things. That was the first time they minted a coin that was not connected to the United States. The reason I know about that is because I bought one for my son. I thought, well, that's really pretty interesting, that they would mint a coin for Iceland. But it was in the year 2000. So, but if you understand the whole big organizational plan that was really defined by Lord Lothian in 1938 or thereabouts, then you can see everything that they've done in a step-by-step way to make it happen, to bring it about. And where that connects to Alberta is with the Pacific Northwest Economic Region. The that includes, like I said, the Pacific Northwest states and the Canadian provinces just above, which includes Alberta. And so
Huh.
I think they're making movement on getting that whole thing finalized to turn the Pacific Northwest into an independent economic region.
Well, and I think that there's so much weird stuff going on right now that we have to consider all things and not just blindly follow anyone and everyone at this point in time. And I feel very strongly about that because we don't, there's a point in time where you have to come to terms with the fact that even good people make mistakes and or can be misled. And I think right now I am an unapologetic Trump fan, and I think President Trump has done a wonderful job for this nation. And some of the things that he's done has just been extraordinary, considering how far the United States has fallen from being a republic. Not really sure exactly how it's going to all play out at this point in time, but I guess I do believe that things. I kind of believe that things are going in a good direction. I really do.
Oh, well, I do too for our economy.
Right.
He has done some great things, but that doesn't that's not to say that he may not even be aware of it. Hell, we don't teach history in this country, and the newspapers, it, you know, they write as if the world has only existed within the last 2 years.
And
You
they
know,
try to make you like wash your memory from it. It's like all of this stuff is going on, and I think they're hoping that we forget what Gretchen Whitmer did to the state of Michigan, Jocelyn Benson and Dana Nessel and Gilchrist. It's like I think they want us to forget what
yeah,
these people have done, and then they start a new narrative just like it never happened. It's like you didn't see anything is what's coming out of their mouth
yeah.
full time.
Uh-huh.
How the history relates to the present is, I think, so critical. And that's the piece that's missing. People will throw out, oh, dates and this happened and that happened. But how does that relate to now? There was a man named James Burke that used to do a couple of different series, The Day the World Changed and that sort of thing. I loved it. I was totally obsessed with this series. And I think it was the 70s and 80s when this came out. He would go back to historical things like the Roman road and how that connected to computers. I mean, just how history moves things forward. But until I met you, honestly, I don't think I've ever met anybody who connects the treaties and what's happened in the past and how it relates to today other than you.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's teaching this. How can we possibly undo what's been done without knowing how we got here?
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about that, I was a computer systems analyst, right?
Yes.
I didn't know anything about anything except that I saw plans for a computer system that I considered to be completely un-American. And so it had to do with the education system and a human resource management system. I'm thinking, what the hell, And the idea was to balance our domestic workers with imported labor. And that it was just so foreign and so contrary to everything I thought about America that I started researching the education system and what they had planned for it. And it was through that pathway that I then expanded out and started looking at the other systems of government and, what the various presidents over time have done. So I just kind of stumbled into it. It wasn't any great genius on my part. It's just, I happened to have the right profession to start looking at computer systems of government and what they've done. And I just happen to be like obsessive compulsive, once I get on a path.
It's a superpower, right?
Yeah. One guy accused me of being part bloodhound, you know, for
I
tracking.
think that some of us just call it weaponized autism, you know, where we get on a subject and
I
there's
love that. Yeah, that's
no
good.
way we're getting off of it and not going to bed because it's just too interesting. And of course, you know, then you're up all night, you're slugging the coffee down and you continue to go because you can't leave it alone.
Hmm. Well, and that's why I have, you know, one website that has probably about 500 articles on it that are the history that I
That
have
you
been,
have written.
yeah, that I've written. I don't post other people's stuff, and I don't let other people post on my website, except a very, very, very few times I have. But for the most part, it's everything that I've researched and written. And then I have another website, an older website, when I was just beginning to research, that also has several hundred articles on it. So you can see my my compulsion, my obsessive compulsion at doing this research once I got on the trail, that what what we Americans think about our country is actually an illusion, and our history is really quite different than what we think it is.
Then and that's a critical point because if what we base our life on now is based on a lie, anything we go forward with is going to be flawed.
Yeah. Well, and
You have
what
to have
they're,
good structure, and the structure's got to stay the same. How's that for a clarification?
yeah, well, what they're planning to do is to bring in basically full-blown fascism. If you look at the Pacific Northwest Economic Region, that's pnwer.org, you'll see that it's government and corporations, quote, partnered together. They're converting our country into a fascist system.
PNWR.
PNWER.
See if I can get it to come up here a minute.
Yeah, it's .org.
Oh, .org. Okay. Okay. There you go.
Yeah, now if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see there should be a map there that people can look at, and you'll see that it's uh, western the western states, the um, Canadian provinces immediately above us, and then Alaska.
Pike Street in Seattle. Let's see if I can go back up here. Here's the little map right there. I don't know if I can bring that up. Annual report. Let's see what else we have. Working groups. So here's another one. It's the Energy Institute. This is something I think people are going to find very interesting. Here, let me just see if I can click on their logo a minute.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing is it is statutory. It's in Idaho law. Participation is in Idaho law.
Really? How did that get there?
The Idaho State Legislature voted for it.
In what year? I guess I'm oversimplifying it, but who did it? Who was behind it? And why did they vote that in? Do you know?
1991 is when it was. I have the timeline over here on the in the private chat.
Okay, let me pull that back up a minute. Let's see here. Ta-da. Yeah, okay. So like I think what they're doing, honestly, guys, is they're stealing the territories and the resources. Something that has come to my attention is that they don't really care about money. They want territory.
Yes, as a matter of fact, you're right.
All it's about, and resources. They've got unlimited money. They don't care about that at all.
Uh-huh.
They
Yeah.
just print it because they can, and or they make trades behind closed doors with commodities. In Michigan, we've got the DNR, which is a theft organization with 4.6 million acres that they've claimed both logging as well as mineral rights in. They don't care about our money system. Your money, keep it, because they could care less about it.
They're building a new world organizational structure.
Yeah, so here it is right here. Northwest Economic Region in 1991, over business in Alaska, Montana, Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, Alberta, and the Yukon territories. The 92, environmental technology. All of this is about the Green New Deal that they're pushing forward to. And I think that there's an investigation that I'm involved in right now that's going to be very, very interesting, especially as how it relates to the state of Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have been working on putting together the timeline of environmentalism. And I thought I only had to go back to like 1969, which was when when the NEPA was passed, the National Environmental Protection Act.
Okay.
And that was done. That was signed by Richard Nixon, to create the organizational structure in the United States, so that we could participate in the 1972 Stockholm Conference on Human Settlements.
Huh.
Okay, but it actually began even farther back than that. And I actually take it back to the United Nations, the establishment of the United Nations, and the way that they've basically conquered the nations of the world is through environmental legislation.
Yes. And it continues on. I think that we are going to find out, with the USAID nonsense that was going on, how deep this actually ran, because they can run all kinds of shell companies underneath this that never produce a damn thing.
Right. They're just like money. They're like money storage.
And it's like the hungry caterpillar type thing. I mean, there's never enough. So they come up with new ones. And there's so many different entities that they're money laundering into and out of, and they're passing the dollars back and forth. The United States, the workers, we're just slaves to them. That's it.
Yes.
That is it. We have a slave culture going on right now. And it's really, really crazy. Denise came on. I want to read a few things on here. Love is on. Love, Denise. Hi, guys. Sherry. Nice to see you guys again. Missed you all. Anyhow, NAFTA destroyed our car economy. This is from Love. My husband was forced to take $3.50 an hour cut in 1990. Most of our auto manufacturers are now foreign owned. Where my husband works is German owned. Denise says, I don't trust Trump. I don't know what is actually going on behind the scenes, but the entire Elon Musk thing is racing towards a transhumanism where we don't work, robots in every major industry, etc. I think there's a lot to question there. First of all, I do not believe in my heart of hearts that Elon Musk or whoever's playing him is a native South African speaker. I have a friend who's South African. He's been here for I don't know how many years, but like forever. And he still speaks with a South African accent. Elon Musk is a native American English speaking individual who throws a British word in once in a while. So I'm not sure what's up with this. I like some of the stuff that they're doing, however. So I'm just kind of like watching it play through, because I do believe the good guys are in control. I'm going to say that that's my take on it, and I'm sticking with it. So,
well, Elon Musk is the son or grandson of one of the founders of Technocracy Incorporated.
Well, I believe his mom is. I believe that his background isn't his mom or his dad are Jewish, and so there's an Israeli connection there. And I'm just going to say it this morning, with all of the murder and such that's coming out on Syria today. I saw an article that was they're crucifying Christians in Syria. I kind of think that's clickbait, but there's the crucifying them. I don't know, until I see evidence of it. I'm not going to jump on that one. It looks like clickbait. However, there's an awful lot of people who absolutely have been murdered there. I think the count is, they're saying up to 10,000. The question is if Israel had control of the region, which they sent all sorts of things into Syria, why is this happening? And who's really behind it? There, I said it.
Yeah.
Watch ADL come after me. Wouldn't be the first time, I suppose, but the question is that who's really in control? And I'm getting pretty disillusioned with this Israeli involvement in everything right now. How much money we're sending off to the Israelis? How many dual citizenship people who have dual citizenship in Congress we have? This is a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I've also seen references to the Israelis having watchers, quote, watchers of the members of Congress, like assigned to them, almost like there was a coup d'etat in our country.
APAC is I think it's all but maybe 13 or 17 members of Congress has got an APAC. Most of our politicians, I shouldn't quote that exactly, but that they've got an APAC handler. You know what? Kick their sorry asses out of the United States. I'm sorry. You do not have foreign entities controlling our politicians. They need and taking orders from them. The same thing happens in the political parties. We're going to talk to the people that are higher up and forget the people that you should be taking direction from, which is we the people. They're taking orders from everybody but we the people.
Yes.
I'm annoyed by the whole thing, really super annoyed. Could you talk
it's like our federal government has been decapitated.
Yes. Can you talk to this for just a minute? I'm going to step away for just a minute and let you talk about this, please.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. It's like that our government was decapitated, and that would have happened on September 11th, 2001. But it didn't begin then. It was already in place and going. So it's almost like nothing is as we think it is. And you have to look behind, you have to look at the administrative levels of government and at Congress and what they're doing. They put people up in front of you saying things, but what they're saying to you is either a slant on the truth, or it's not the straight up truth. Let me put it that way. And so you really have to go out and find for yourself what is the straight up truth. And because nothing is as it seems to be. And I didn't set out thinking that. I didn't set out thinking anything except to figure out, what's happening in our country, because nothing was normal at the time when I started this research. And so, and it has just been one surprise after another that I'm actually living in a different country than I thought I was.
Sorry for stepping away for a minute there, but I was listening to you. Yes, and it's just it's a crazy thing, but we need to get back to, as you said, how did we get here? This whole Israeli connection is just disturbing the living crap out of me right now.
Well, one thing that we should all be working on this, is to end dual citizenship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I they brought in a lot of UN people to work in our government, and that's why you have the dual citizenship, so they can be, which is really, if you really, strip it down to its bare essence, that's an occupation. It's like our country is occupied.
I believe that to be true, is that we literally are an occupied country, and they use so many different methods to do it. The illegal invasion on the southern border. But I'm going to bring something else up. Talking to this guy that I told you about from Alberta, he was telling me, and I think he's going to come on at some point in time, how many people come through the southern border, go up through Canada, get papers, and enter. He said there's a lot of Saudis that are coming in that way as well. He said the northern border is more of a threat at this point in time because, who doesn't love Canadians? Okay. And it's like, they're kind of like our upstairs neighbor that I was laughing with him. Okay. I thought this was pretty funny. I said, this is Americans' opinion of Canadians. They're very polite and maple syrup. Okay. Just very polite, wonderful people. And I know a lot of people from Canada, and they're very polite, very nice people. Right. And so that's, and you got to realize that sometimes public perception is what it's all about. So while they've got us looking down there at the southern border, look over here while we're screwing you up here. It's really Canada that is the problem. And he was telling me that there's an area, because there is no boundary, there is no border up there. They'll go through a farm field near where he is with trucks and come up into Canada, and then just drive right on through. And he said, conversely, they'll go from Canada right down into the United States and jump on the highway, and nobody knows they're there. And he was telling me a story about somebody who brought a boat in from, I think they came from Isle Royal, and went up into Canada and wanted to get their passport stamped because they wanted to be there legally, and there was nobody there. So he called in to help them. The next thing you know, they said, well, we don't have anybody up here. Drive them to Sault Ste. Marie, which is about like a 20-hour drive or something like that. It's a huge drive from where they were in Thunder Bay, and get their passport stamped. He's like, are you kidding me? So this is like I'm not sure that he was correct exactly on a 20-hour drive, but it's a long drive from where they were. So, and to get their passport stamped, he said, somebody will have to drive them because they came by boat, and there was nobody there in order to even receive them. So the entire northern border is completely wide open.
Yeah. And that's not really a mistake, right? Because
No.
we have the NAFTA agreement that was basically the beginning of the building of an organizational structure over the top of our three countries. And so, the Canadians are basically in the same position that we are, and the same position that the Mexicans are in.
It's
which
the
is
people.
which is that we have the government, we see the government that we think we have, but there is an organizational structure over the top of it.
Yes,
and
it's
there are
all
all kinds of North American organizations that that bring the laws together for these three countries. So we're not living in the organizational structure that we think we are. It's it's called a condominium structure, with the definition of condominium not being an apartment building, in New York. Condominium is a term under international law of a governing structure sitting over the top of other countries. And on my website, I have the definition of it. I found it kind of accidentally. It was mentioned by one of Lawrence Eagleburger. He's the one that mentioned a condominium structure that they wanted to put in place through the trade agreements. And so I looked it up, and it's actually a higher level of governing structure over the top of our governments that are participating in the agreement. So,
have you ever heard the name the consortium?
the consortium.
Mm-hmm.
No, I can't say that I have. I think there's a website called the consortium. Is that the same thing, or?
I don't know, but I think that this ruling structure that's sitting above everyone, including the politicians, has affectionately named themselves the consortium, or the global organized crime syndicate that's sitting up there.
Oh, okay. Well,
It's like you look at an organization and there's different levels to it. So the organized crime syndicate that runs it all, I believe, is called the consortium, and they put useful idiots in place in order to blackmail them and control them and such. They don't really care about the economies or money or anything. They vie for territory. Mm-hmm.
Well, that makes
It's all
sense
economic.
if you understand the plan for the whole global world organization, where there'll be 5 or 6 regions. It was an estimate back in the 1930s when they came up with this plan for basically territorial management under a world system. And
it's like a parallel or a dual system going on right now. You've got the economic system, and then you've got we the people that are in an illusion. They just kind of keep us off to the side so that we don't muddle in their affairs.
Right, that's exactly right. They separated the economic system from the political system. Now, we think we have a political system that runs the economy. No, they don't. The economy is under this world system, under the World Trade Organization. And Trump is bringing back, some of the industries, but I think that was all part of the plan to begin with. That it really is like central economic planning. We think we live in a capitalist country. Well, it's only capitalism to the extent of fascism, which is not that much different than communism. So we're not living in the economic system that we think we are.
And it's so easy for them because all they have to do is dangle $1 in front of most people and they will jump at it. Most people are very easily compromised, and they're doing it through lots of different methods. So take, for instance, U.S. aid and all the money that's gone through U.S. aid to fund the CIA. Now, it's not just the CIA directly. It's all their little sub-ops they have going on there. Like even the social media or let's just say the influencer realm, the ones that are considered right. How many of these people have taken the money? The USAID scandal has said it's about 5,000 of them. So even the podcasters and such that people are listening to, I watch this stuff, and I'm watching. I don't even know how many channels I'm watching on my Telegram channel, but a lot of them. I watch them on and off, depending on what bent they're on. And you can see them doing the same thing that Sinclair Media was doing. They all have the same talking points. They're moving their mouths together, only they just basically said, okay, mainstream media isn't working anymore, so we're going to go down and do it through podcasters and some of these influencers that are out there. And people have no idea who they're talking to. None at all. Same thing with the candidates that are coming up. I'm going to tell you what, I'm digging into the candidates because especially for governor, I'm watching that very, very closely. So I wanted to read something to you. And thank you, Denise. Denise just said, I'm going to announce it here. She said, by the way, congrats, Donna, on your new position in the Taxpayers Party. Love you, Donna. Thank you so much. I was voted in as chairman of the Constitution Party in the United States. a couple of weeks ago here. So that's kind of interesting, and I believe that this is going to be kind of fun because we wrote a resolution. It started resolution writing last year, and then I send them out to the entire executive branch, all of our legislators in the state of Michigan, all of the clerks, county as well as local clerks, and so we put a resolution out for a name change because Jocelyn Benson has basically stepped on our rights and refuses to let us change the name, which is the U.S. Taxpayers Party, to the Constitution Party to match the rest of the United States. So we've got a file folder on this, and I think this is going to get really interesting because I'm not going to be happy with doing or running for anything. We're just going to fix the thing because the fix was in when I ran last time on as for governor. The fix was in. We actually have names and who was attached to this and who contributed to this. And so at this point in time, your vote doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They've got the candidates already chosen. The consortium already has the candidates chosen who you will have the right to vote for. That's how it goes. And if you think any of these people that have announced or who are on the ticket are for real, I got a lot of news for you. I've got a lot of news for you. Gilchrist came out. We've got Gilchrist now. We've got, I don't know, it's Anthony Hudson. He's standing now with Carla Wagner with Axe My Tax, which is absolutely an abysmally undergunned proposal. She was actually taking signatures for this past the deadline to take signatures before. So how can you even have any belief in these people if they're running the same damn gameplay that they ran the last time? So for me, right then and there, when I saw Anthony Hudson pushing this, I'm like, let's dig into his past. He was a developer as well as other things that I'm kind of looking forward to continuing on this. So, and you have Axe My Tax with Carla Wagner. Allegedly, she owed 60 grand in back taxes and then started this up. She flat out in a taxpayer party's meeting shows up and tells all of us that she'd never been in politics. She really wasn't in politics at all. As she was sitting there, we sat there and looked up her donations. She had 3 pages of donations. So you know what, guys? Don't lie to me, because I'm going to get in there and I'm going to dig like the little, autist that I am, and going to have a weaponized autism situation until it's painfully obvious that you're a lying piece of crap.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really what you have to do with these people, is just discredit, because most people look at the world as if it's all straight. It's like they can't, either don't want to look or can't comprehend that there's something really very, very wrong in the United States. I think a lot of people might see it, but they don't want to acknowledge it.
Well, we're going to continue unmasking these people. And I mean, that comes with the political parties, who in fact right now, the political parties that have taken the dark money or the PAC money or any of this stuff, any of these political parties, they need to be absolutely prosecuted as both a domestic and foreign threat to the United States of America, because they're being controlled. So Denise says too, it's crazier as Trump's daughter is married to a Jewish guy with influence, disturbed by that. And okay, APAC, just go pound sand. We have, but I do believe that we're working through issues and such. And so I'm not going to be the person that says, okay, all the Israelis are bad, or all the this is bad or that. I don't have any problems with the Jewish people whatsoever. I have a problem with this structure that has been invaded, and not only invaded, but infiltrated on every level of our government. And I think once you get down below President Trump, even the next layer down, we have to ask some serious questions on who is in control of this. personally, I think the military is in control of it right now. And so everything that we're seeing out there has to be questioned. Everything.
I kind of agree with you that it is the military that is actually running the show. Because, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is on is the military representation to the Security Council, the U.S. representative on the Security Council of the UN. And
Oh, for real?
yeah. So, and they're showing the military people under the Security Council people. But is that really true?
Well, and I think right now we're in a stage that the people needed to wake up and find out what's really going on. And we're still in the wake up part of this mission. There's no two ways about it. When I look at how many people think that they know what's going on and they're worshiping knowledge, none of us know what's going on in this realm. I don't care who you are. They are not, anyone that's in control right now, they aren't talking. And so we're getting our talking points in a lot, unless you do your own research. We're getting a lot of this by influencers who may be part of the planned disinformation campaign to continue to catch useful idiots and pushing the agenda forward. All you got to do is look at the USA and 5,000 podcasters, info pushers, that sort of thing. And they're all building their own audiences. That's another thing. They're trying to build an audience. They're taking cash from whatever source comes from them. They don't care. And it's really, really a problem. Oh, Pinky got on. Hi, Pinky. I can see you here too. Problem is our votes don't matter. Huge machines open to the internet. It's huge. It is absolutely huge. We do not have control of our elections, not in any way, shape, or form. And then you've got Benson over here, who already violated campaign finance rules by announcing from her a public building in the state of Michigan, amongst other things. They're just doing whatever they want to do, and people are not getting down to the bottom level of the structure quick enough, because they're getting distracted by the aliens are coming, or this is coming, or that's coming, or who knows what's going on. I listen to everything. I'm open to anything and everything, quite honestly. But until we get to the bottom of this structure problem, we're in trouble.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing that I kind of just stumbled onto because of what I did for a living. My focus is really on the functional government and what's being done with the functional government, not the politicians, not the puppet show that they bring to us every day, and all the drama and none of that crap. I look at the functional structure of government, and then as I work my way through that, there might be an important key person involved in it, but it's generally not the one you think. And so that's really the way you have to look at it, is from the functional point of view. Because if you watch the politicians, it's just a political theater. That's all it is.
They're lying on both sides of their mouth. No matter what they do, they open their mouths, and their negative tongue is lies and deception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that's really the way that you have to look at it.
Well, and I think too, some of it is it's too hard for people to even accept that they've been lied to, and it makes them feel stupid. Well, you know what? None of us, there was a point in time that none of us knew. What's stupid is if you don't accept new information as it comes out and admit, wow, we really thought we understood what was going on, but clearly the deception of very evil people has just absolutely broadsided pretty much everybody. And people will tell me, I've been at this. I was at it for a long time. Okay, we've all been at this for a long time. There are things that didn't make sense to any of us. to all of us. You know, we were all in a position of like, why does this not make sense to me? None of this makes sense, but we didn't have the access to the truth that was out there. So all we had was what they were feeding us and keeping us in the dark so that they could control the game. The reason why I believe the good guys are in control right now too is because so much has come out that make us question the narratives, the history that's been put before us, even the honesty or integrity of people that we trust. We have to question it. And I'm of the believer, even though I'm an unapologetic President Trump supporter, I will never give up my ability to question even him. He is a man. He has people around him that are trying to subvert him. It is our job as the citizens or the people of the United States. I know there's people with problems with that word, but I'm just going to say it. The people of the United States to stand with him and help him know when there's something that's gone wrong. He may not know. He may have a snake chirping in his ear who is giving him bad instructions. Even if he's a really, really good man, which I believe he is. I believe that there are some very good people out there who have bad people talking to him. We have to assume first and foremost that they're good and that their intentions are good. When they do something that they're not supposed to do, or they break the law, or they're not aware of the Constitution, or whatever it is, it's your job and my job to stand with him and let him know that something is gone terribly awry and what needs to happen, so that he can even consider if the people that are standing with him are liars, cheats, and thieves. Because there's a lot of them out there. I've talked to a lot of them, but I've also talked to a lot of very good people who usually will not step into the light because they are happy with working. They're happy with working behind the scenes and never taking credit. Those are the people that I usually like to talk to, because they're doing it because of God, family, and country, for honor, because they see it as their duty. They're not trying to make money off it. They're not a patriot, a patriot. They're not about the money. It's never been about the money for true patriots. It's about restoring this nation and taking the power back from very, very evil people. And that duty never expires.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you on that. I've never accepted a dime for anything that I've done. I've never sought money for anything that I've done. I just do it because I'm concerned about the future and what's going to become of this country. Because if you let somebody like the guy running BlackRock, he could buy the whole damn country, basically. And under our laws, I think he should have been taken down a long time ago.
I think we should look to see if Larry Fink is part of the Israeli crime syndicate that's going on out there. And I don't mean the Jewish people, so ADL, you can shove it. We cannot have a protected class of citizen parties or entities that we can't talk about. That's how they stop us from actually addressing things. And by the way, hi Beth, I see you out there. I'm not sure if my response to you on the chat got through, but that we have to be able to question things because it's either good or it's evil. That's what it is. I don't care about the label or what anybody has to say about who they align with or blah, 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 blah. I don't know about you. I'm done with it. I'm done with Republicans. I'm done with Democrats. I'm done with the labels. I love the people. I love you if you're an American or just the fact that you're born, okay? I don't care what label you decided to slap on yourself today or who your friends are in that direction or another direction. I don't really care. I care about you as a person first, an American second, and that we can stand together. The only way we're going to fix this nation is to stop the splintering of this nation into all these subgroups. It's a coordinated effort to splinter us, to keep us fighting against each other. And we've got to get rid of that and go forward as not an identity, in identity politics. Identity, we live our lives in how many different ways, but who are you? Who are you as a person? and who am I, and can, sit down and talk as friends and family. And I think we're headed in that direction.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that under the global economy, which is what they've done,
I see you,
and
Julia. Julia, I'll be with you in just a minute. Go ahead.
and breaking up the country into economic regions, they are transforming the system from what used to be a political system working for the people to an economic system working for the corporations and the people with the money to be involved in it. And what that does is that it reduces people like us to, basically just nothing, just puppets, workers. They like to use the word workers. And I know you have, money, but not the kind of money that we're talking about when we're talking about people like Blackstone or Larry Fink or,
Oh,
Elon Musk or any of those people. They count. You and I don't count.
we don't count. I'm like, they see me as the bootlicker class of person who, and quite honestly, look at how many people have been arkancided and swatted and this, that, and the other thing going on there. If
Mhm.
Bobby Piton came on X this morning, I acknowledged him with a post because I know Bobby, and he talked about how they took his campaign down, and I'm like, they did the same thing to every single one of us that who were honest. That any of the honest candidates, they literally got rid of it. And I have the name of the person who was actually tasked to come up with a strategy to get rid of me and my campaign. And it was an organized effort. They chose somebody who was getting ready to retire so that it couldn't come back to them. But they literally had a plan to get rid of me as a candidate. And if you don't think, and it doesn't stop with me, it was everyone. And what this is really about, because I don't get butt hurt over these things, I just get pissed off. Okay. I get really pissed off. And then I go into, you just made a bad decision. Now, how am I going to absolutely end this tyrannical nonsense so it doesn't happen again? Because it really wasn't an attack against Donna Brandenburg. It was an attack that they were preventing against their globalist structure and every single American who they consider in their slave class. They don't want you to have an honest leader. They don't want the system honest. They want to control the entire game, the money, what you do, what you think. Look at the last census that asked when you left your house, when you did this. Where is this their business? It
Yeah,
isn't.
yeah. Oh, they've got the systems that they have track absolutely everything that you do.
Oh yeah,
And,
yeah, everything. It's
yeah,
amazing.
and
So
yeah. So we're losing our freedom. People are being turned into basically slaves, even if they don't understand it, if they don't realize. Um, if we want to have an America that fulfills the promise of what it was supposed to be, we we have to bring down this corporate fascism that's taken over our country.
yes, and they're in the business of killing, murdering, and yeah, I said those words, didn't I? They're in the business of eliminating people because we don't matter. And all you got to do is look at what's happening in Syria. If the Israelis had power over Syria, which they said they did, why are all of these Christians being murdered over there? It's not okay. And if people ask me, what side of this are you on? It's like, at this point in time, I'm on the side of not killing people. That's what I'm on. We need to stop this. And this goes all the way to the unborn. And with that, I'm gonna go to a quick break and bring on Julie Lavender. Thank you for being on today, Vicky. I just absolutely adore you. You are so amazing, and you've taught me so much. And I know everybody else out there too, because the information you've put together, you just kind of worked, behind the scenes and, without without gratification or without anybody telling you it was the right thing. You just did it because it was the right thing. And I'm so proud of you. And I'm so proud to know you and call you a friend. So thank you so much. And we'll be on next week. And I think we need to keep pounding this subject out there because people just don't know. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Donna.
I'll be back in 30 seconds. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it's the 10th day of March 2025. Welcome to our show. I'm going to bring on my next guest very quickly, Julie Lavender. Hey, Julie, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How are you, Donna?
I'm wonderful. And I was reading your, let's see, I'm going to bring this up a minute. I was reading everything on your, let's see if I can pull it up here a minute, on your website, and I'm just so impressed by your, I don't know, your resume. It's just incredible how much you've done and creatively done over the years. And I want to bring this up so everybody can see this. This is your, let's see, let's go up here, get it back to, this is Julie's resume, guys. And thank you so much for coming on today. Julie, I figured out where we met the first time.
Mm-hmm.
You were at Threadfest, weren't you?
Yes, the very first one of their things they did with Patrick Gunnels.
That's exactly where I met you. So I figured it out. We were looking at the pictures at CPAC, and I'm like, we knew that we met each other, but we were trying to figure it out. It was at Threadfest.
Yeah, and you were so smart to be able to go back through your phone and find images. I was like, you can do that? Oh my gosh.
I have a few skills in that regard, you know, and so
I learned something from you that day, so that's cool.
Not the best, but you're just so lovely. We had such a nice interview, or not an interview, time to talk, and I really appreciated you taking the time to educate me on what you're doing as well as the books that you have out there. Can you give me the title again? So we're going to do this a little bit odd. I couldn't open your Google Docs thing this morning, and so your website is the
Here. You want to definitely, if anybody walks away with anything else, they need to walk away with thequestforwonder.com. That's the only way to get the incredible books that I'm going to tell you about, because they're trying to kill us. Who's going to tell the kids?
Yes. And
we were just so we'll chat about why these are so life-changing and important, because without getting the kids, we don't win the war, right? But first I want to say, Donna, you were so sweet. You sat and listened to me talk to you for such a long time about these books. And I was so impressed, because what you said to me was that you were really learning just to listen to people and hear their stories. And boy, I was like a fire hose. You know, I was like, yes, I have a story. Yes, I want you to hear me. And you did, and you listened, and then you opened up this opportunity for me. So I just want to say thank you. That was very meaningful to me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's so important for all of us to listen. There's a lot of proof that the listening heart is so healing for people. But not only that, I do very long interviews, and I truly do believe that you don't get to the crux of what people have, their intelligence and their knowledge, unless you really listen. And it's also very healing to people that are hurt, to give them time to express themselves. You don't do that with a headline. You don't do any of that, accomplish any of that just by like landing like a mosquito and off you go. You've got to really not only listen, but care about what people have to say. And it was a wonderful discussion that we had. I think what I'm going to do is see if I can put that on a banner here for a minute. And then I'm going to create a banner. I've got a new screen, guys, and then let you talk while I'm creating a banner here. Okay.
Well, clearly from listening to your previous guest and your comments, you have an audience that has awakened to the dystopian realities of our world and has had a chance for that to settle and land, or you wouldn't have been able to say the things you said, even in this segment that I was exposed to and I took in, because your audience and your guest had, thank you, that's perfect, thequestforwonder.com. You have pegs to hang the information on, right? I homeschooled 3 kids, and one of the things you learn about developing in children is that children need pegs on which to hang every bit of information and organize it in their minds. When they're young, this starts with memorization. You memorize things they're like absorb, like little, they call it the pole parrot stage, where you can say anything and they'll memorize it. So when you give kids key information when they're young, they can hang and organize timelines of history and concepts and where this fits and where that fits. And so we have to get the next generation, and we have to give them the mental, intellectual pegs on which to hang the exposure of darkness that is unfolding before us. And this is what I said to you. This is my hardcore pitch, what I just held up. Donna, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can.
They're trying to kill us. Who's going to tell the kids? They're trying to kill us. There is a dystopian reality of depopulation, like you said, of control, of slave classes, of manipulation, of deciding when you can eat, what you can spend, where you go. Your last guest just talked about the tracking of every single thing we do, and the reality that there are winners and losers. There are wars that are begun and people are eliminated, like what's happening in Syria. There are people that are given certain value, not based on their humanity or their God destiny, but based on people who are megalomaniacs, Luciferian psychos. Okay, like
Satanists. Let's call it for what it is. They're Satanists.
Yeah, I have pegs for this because of my faith. God gave me faith and strength of walking with him to be able to handle whatever I need to see and understand. And I said to him a few years ago, don't shock me in eternity, shock me now. Like, don't leave me the way I am. If you know that I'm going to stand before you and face the cold, harsh reality of what you saw, what you needed me to do, what I needed to be aware of, please, please, please make me uncomfortable now, because I don't want to stand before you and have dropped the ball on my time on planet Earth. And so he graciously has given people like you and me and others an awakening across the world to help us have those places in our mind to organize this vast amount of information about what's really happening. Well, Donna, if they're trying to kill us, you can't leave that conversation out from your kids. The kids have to understand this, because they're being fed a narrative. This is narrative warfare, because the most important thing that will determine your destiny and the destiny of your children and grandchildren is the story they believe about themselves, God, and the world. That's it. It's the story. And they have been masterful through Hollywood and media of telling us stories and pounding it into our heads so we will live as robots in reaction to the stories they give us. This is what happened in 2020. It was unveiled for us when we were locked in our homes and children were locked in their houses and told they could kill people if they left. and then physically traumatized by forcing people to cover over their mouths where they speak, their respiratory systems where they get air and breathe. Trauma, trauma, trauma. You couldn't turn on a computer. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't go to the store without everybody telling you to, quote, stay safe, as if truth was scary and could kill you, right? And it's amazing how they had those incredible stickers just ready for all the businesses of the world all at once to put the stay 6 feet apart stickers.
Wasn't that amazing how that just kind of happened so quick?
How isn't that incredible how people can get so organized so fast? And then they were ready with their patents on their vaccines, and they were ready with their stories and ready with the 4 a.m. talking points. They all said it exactly the same time. Wow. Isn't that amazing? And then ready to tell us that wasn't enough. Then we had to violate our freedom of choice and stick stuff in our bodies. Guys, this traumatized our children. And if we don't tell them the truth about what happened in a way that empowers them and enlightens them and delights them, someone else will tell them the story. And
Absolutely.
that is my job. I am the red-pilled Mary Poppins. I have the spoonful of sugar to help children understand this, because look, apparently in 48 months, we're going to come into the singularity and all that stuff. And who knows what's going to happen. And they've got these systems in place and they're crumbling and they're falling. And God is not going to give the planet to the bad guy. He really isn't. He's expecting us to show up and live out his glory. Okay. But you guys, somebody has to tell the kids. And so we get on our shows. And when I was at CPAC and this place and that place, all these adults that are awakening, we have these conversations and it's kind of like, wow, yeah, did you know that? And, and who's not getting the story told to them? The children are not getting this story. And this is what the Amazing series is all about. These are the first 3 books in the Amazing series. Constance in the Battle. Sorry, I don't know how to make it. Constance in the Battle for Wonder is book 1. Constance enchants her brother, who blows things up just to see how they work. And the Big Bang Backlash is number 2. And the third one I have printed and available right now is Constance in Charleston and the Bombastic Bafflegab. Bombastic Bafflegab literally means propaganda. Okay. And so I build up to teaching your children about mind control and propaganda in 3 books. And by book 5, I take on the World Economic Forum and weather weaponry. Okay. In 5 beautiful books with gorgeous pages and incredible full color illustrations, incredible vocabulary. I'm a homeschool mom, so I know how to write with intelligence to teach and train kids and to get their minds thinking with great vocabulary. My books come with study guides, but let me just take you on a little narrative journey so you can see why literally, if you care about the world, you got to get these books for your kids. You have to. No one else on the whole planet is doing what I'm doing.
I have a question for you, Julie. Would you like to share the document that you sent me? Because I couldn't send it this morning, but you can actually share that on here. Are there graphics you'd like to put up?
You know what? The most beautiful graphic I have is of the 3 book image,
Okay.
And I've got that here, but I also
did Google Docs, and so you can share that if you want.
I know, and it's been a crazy week. I was potty training my grandchild this last week.
Oh my goodness, that is a busy week.
So I didn't have a lot of time, but I can even show you some illustrations. The bottom line is that this family here, or if you share my screen, I can put up the image. How do we do that?
Well, you can go down to share image, but I can do it this way too. I can do it from your website here.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just going to hold up the book again so you can see the cover. Constance Battle for Wonder. Okay. Let me just take you on a little Mary Poppins journey. Okay. And give you a spoonful of wonder to help the medicine go down. Okay. This book is about a family that lives in a town called Greystone Heights. And every single person in the town is colorblind. except for my one family. And the reason why the people are colorblind is because they uniformly conform to something called the prescribed order. And behind the prescribed order, there are these shadowy elders of the order. And the people aren't particularly aware of just how dark they are. They know there are experts and authorities, the authorities behind the scene, right?
Yep.
But they haven't really grasped that they're not good authorities. But everyone conforms to the prescribed order. And so over time, they've lost the ability to see color. They're colorblind. So they live gray, see gray, think gray, behave gray. And the only thing that's taught at the Dumble Street Center for Life Preparation and Child Development on the Hill, which is their school, is the prescribed order operation, or the poo. And this one family, the Falsum family, they can see
That's
color.
really funny, by the way.
Yeah, I'm hilarious, by the way. This one family can see color because they interact with the supernatural realm called wonder. And wonder allows them to see and understand things no one else does. It makes them see color. And people who can see color are not far from wonder. And people who interact with wonder won't conform to the order. So the elders of the order hate color. They're terrified of it. They don't want people ever seeing color because they don't want people ever connecting with wonder or the bright side. And when the little child here decides she wants to go to the Dumble Street Center, the grown-up factory on the hill, to see what all the other kids are doing in the gray, her parents have no idea that in allowing her to do that, the elders of the order realize they can get their mitts on her and control her. And if they can control her, they can get to this family, and then they'll have complete and total domination of the town. So I take this whole world concept of control and propaganda and mind control, and I reduce it to a town, because people can understand a town, kids can understand a town. And what happens, Constance learns that her choices will affect the destiny of her entire town. And so she goes into the grown-up factory, and they're trying to give her the gray side. And amazing things happen, and she learns about peer pressure and brokenheartedness and conflict, and she learns about truth versus emotions. Because she has spiritual and visceral experiences that are real. But just because something is real, is it true? I'm laying the foundation for dealing with subjective reality versus factual reality. Just because you feel like a kitty, are you a kitty? Just because you feel like something showed up in your room and gave you warm and fuzzies and cuddlies, is it telling you the truth? So from right out of the gate at book 1, I'm taking on these massive foundational issues to help children understand, so I can unpack the entire globe for them there's this incredible funny family with a mother and father that are working together as a team. They're intact. They're an intact family where everyone, this is just some of the beautiful illustrations that are in this book. 20 gorgeous, beautiful illustrations with magazine quality paper. You don't get this in kids' books because it's so expensive.
Well, what you're doing is you're teaching critical thinking, and that's something that's been abysmally lacking in our society. Instead of just sit down and spit back the answers that we want you to put on our tests. I'm a homeschool mom too. I was, my kids are all grown. But the point being is that they have to have those skills in order to survive the world that we live in. And it comes down to not spitting back answers. It's understanding and being able to shuffle through the propaganda and the nonsense that's out there. And I think that's what you're doing a really good job of.
Well, because if they can get the concepts, it doesn't matter when they do their Game of Thrones, what things they want to use to control. When children get the concept, they'll smell it. They'll understand it. In fact, when I'm at homeschool conferences and I tell the people the story, the kids will go, that's just what happened to us. Because you see, we go from book 1 into book 2, and this is where I take on the abuse of science. and the manipulation of the questions people are allowed to ask in scientific review. It's called constants and chance. I'm trying to get it exactly. I suppose it should be in front of my face. And the Big Bang backlash. And this talks about origins and, again, the abuse of science. And in this book, there's an incredible experience of them being able to understand the privileged and the uniqueness of our planet, and why life is even possible here, and what makes them have a destiny. But beyond that, it takes back science from the elders of the order. And then there's an incredible, like, page turning ending, where afterwards this other people in town begin to see dashes of color, because they interact with wonder, this realm of wonder, in a profound and earth-shattering way. Well, guess what happens when the people of the town begin to see color, which is a metaphor for truth and revelation and taking that red pill, right? That wake up pill. The elders of the order are terrified. Oh my gosh, people are asking questions. Oh my gosh, they're seeing color. People are actually putting color on their clothes. They're going, and so the elders of the order in book 3, is that clear? Because it's in front of my face.
It's nice in front of your face. I can see it.
Yeah, the elders of the order in book 3, they say, oh my gosh, we can't tell these people they haven't experienced wonder, because wonder is a realm in my book. It's a reality. It's a realm that we can access to get help from. And the children in my books, they're the ones that are accessing this realm to fight the gray. And so the elders of the order are terrified after book 1. Oh my gosh, people are seeing color. So we'll haul out an authorized ideas manager. And the authorized ideas manager is Ms. Anthropomorphia Slouchy. She might be related to a Fauci, but her name is Ms. Anthropomorphia Slouchy. And she is the authorized ideas manager to manage all the media and to tell everyone that you did see color because you've been exposed to a terrible plague that could kill you. And color could kill you. And so you need to wear at all times gray glasses on your face constantly to protect you from ever seeing color, because you have to keep yourself safe from color. And so even the family's daughter, who's still going to the school, there's a separation between her and her family because she's getting propagandized. But her brother, who reads the dictionary just for fun, creates a newspaper to tell everybody, hey, it's really stupid to think that putting anything on your face could protect you from a biological bug. That's stupid. I can prove it.
You can say anything here, so you can call it a bioweapon, because everybody here knows
that. Well, it is a bioweapon, but in the books, basically, they're saying that a plague leaked out of this black hole from book 2. And so he's saying, look, if there really was a plague with some kind of biological bug or something in it, that it would be stupid to think you could avoid it unless you were living in a bubble, right? So dumb. So he creates a newspaper to tell the truth, and the elders, then the order officers have to show up at the door and stop this family, stop their newspaper, censor them, haul the kids off to get them to conform to the order. But in my book, at the end of book 3, the kids decide they want to see for themselves. And so all the children in the town decide to throw off their gray glasses, which creates a bigger crisis in book 4. So now the elders of the order say, well, guess what? Now you'll have to take safety drops in your eyes to protect you, make you permanently colorblind, so you'll never catch this plague. And so now everybody's forced to stay in their houses unless they take the safety drops. And guess what? Some children are blinded in my books because the safety drops are dangerous. Do you see how I'm telling the children?
Real. The threat is real, and they need to know that. Otherwise, they're going to be probably harmed by these people, and they will go after children.
Well, here's the deal. In my books, they're hilarious. I have hilarious characters, and Anthropomorphia Slouchy. And then I have this guy named Florian Flister. and I've got Ms. Imperia, Beasley. My characters and my bad characters are just right out of history right now. And if you think about it, tyrannists are hilarious. They're so funny. I mean, weren't you in the last administration just this has got to be a show that
Of
they would
course.
actually do this? And you're going to eat bugs and like it and all this stuff, right? I mean, that's hilarious material. So I can tell these children the truth about what actually the world orderers ordering forum wants them to do. Because in my books, by book 5, the prescribed order's not enough. They need a reordering, a great reordering. And they have a world orderers ordering forum, the woof. And they wanted to, and guess what? In book 5, it's the family dog that understands the woof is the danger.
Oh,
that's very witty. They're funny. They're hilarious. The characters are, and so I'm dropping these. If you take evil and you blow it up to its largest thing, it's ridiculous. It's got a ridiculous quality that is great for comedy. So I can take the most difficult conversations that you'll ever have to have with your kids and make it exciting and fun and dramatic, and the characters are funny and the evil people are there, and teach them the concepts of what it looks like when you have a psychotic group of people trying to rule the world and get you all to obey. I mean, and the kids have to understand this, because we're going to be gone one way or another in a couple of decades, and they're stepping into the singularity. They're stepping into the war of narratives. How dare we not prepare them? How dare we not tell them these things? But I promise I never doom. And by book 10, when I get there, I will have taken on child sexual abuse. I will have taken on abortion and recovery. I will have taken on confusion of all types. I will have taken on the biggest issues of our time in a way that is so compassionate and loving and fun and unexpected. See, I'm a Jesus freak. I love Jesus, but I refuse to just rewrite Bible stories or try to do Narnia all over again. No, our kids deserve a VIP experience, which is why I paid a lot of money to have gorgeous colored illustrations, because you don't tell kids that color is a metaphor for truth and give them black and white books. And so I've gone all out to have these printed and shipped around the Horn of Africa because of the war in the Middle East, to have these books printed and ready to go to, and the first part of the series is 5 books. And as I said, by book 5, I'm taking on the world ordering form and weather weaponry. Like, I thought, I know weather weaponry is real, but it'll be a long time before the world catches up to that. And then what did we just see this last fall? People all over were talking about HARP technologies and cloud seeding and chemtrails and all that stuff, right? I'm like, dude, my books are so flippin' relevant. And every time I read them to a readers group, everyone goes, you have to get these out there. You have to tell people these are great. Oh my gosh, my kids need this. Everybody needs that. Everybody, And I'm like, well, I'll do my best. One Donna Brandenburg interview at a time.
I think this is amazing because, this really highlights the fact that every individual has such amazing talents in the way we see the world and the way we frame it, that we can really be helpful in so many ways, and just taking what God's given us and doing what he leads us into doing. You have to find, and this is to everyone out there, you have to find how you're going to be involved and then just run with it. And that's what Julie did with us, taking the fact that she's a homeschool mom, seeing all these issues and tying this into really helping people process what we've gone through, because everyone's in trauma right now. I believe everyone from young to old is still dealing with what we've gone through and trying to frame this in something that makes sense.
So my books are giving pegs, just to go back to the beginning. They're creating pegs for kids to understand concepts about propaganda, about authoritarian tyranny, about science and questions and good science and bad science. And are we just all, mistakes? Did we just happen out of nowhere? And what difference does that make if you believe in purpose and divine design? And it doesn't. What do you do when is wonder just for this one little family, or is wonder for all the other kids in the school that are colorblind? I mean, these are pegs, and I have in my books, I write deep 2 or 3 themes in each book that interweave. So adults read my books and they get healed because they're healing. They're healing books because, like you said, Donna, we've all been traumatized. That cold feeling that if you walk out of your house without a mask, some Karen's going to scream at you. That feeling that, what if I could kill grandma? And you know better, but you're like, you're questioning everything. And the fact that they locked up our elderly people and let them die alone. And I have friends that feel really happy about the fact that they protected their loved ones and went and waved at them from a distance. And then oh, too bad, grandpa died while he was in there. Well, he's going to die anyway. I mean, these are things our children, we're in a new world. So we got to have new literature, new concepts, new ways to communicate to them the realities there, and to give them the most realist story of all is that there's geniosity behind the all in all of the universe. This is what my character Chance says in book 2 when he's talking about origins. He says, I know that the all of it all is genius because I've been to wonder and I saw how it started. So he wants to create a mini big bang at the science fair to prove there's intelligence behind how everything unfolded. And he does.
I got to give the atheists credit, because the atheists that are in our society have more faith than a lot of people who call themselves Christians to believe that this came from nothing. How in the world can you believe that this just sort of happened and that there were enough chances? Who made the chances in the first place? You know what I mean?
Millions of years.
Completely illogical.
We take the leap into origins when we examine all of the evidence, and it makes perfect sense that there's an intelligence behind it. But everyone takes the leap of, will I rest in that possibility for myself as a person? That's that leap. The atheists substitute millions of years for the leap of faith, because this idea of millions of years is something the mind and the soul could never. It's faith. It's because you can't quantify millions of years. You don't, but you just assume if there's enough time, which can never be really, observed, then anything could happen, right? And we're like, well, if there's enough love, anything could happen with a God that could create a universe like this. Do you see the difference? Is still, you're exactly right, Donna. It's definitely a faith issue. And it takes, when you look at the evidence clearly, it takes a lot of faith.
Even believing history, history as it's written, takes actually a lot of faith. You're taking somebody's word for what they're telling you happened. Well, that may not be what happened at all. And so,
an interesting time. I tell people, because people are asking all kinds of questions about, like, who are the people of God and the land of God and all that stuff, right? And I loved how you handled it, Donna. I loved how you handled and defined, because nowadays we have to define our terms. What are you talking about? What are you not talking about? Right. But this idea that people say, but what about this? And what about that? I say, look, if we can get the people to understand 2 things, we don't have real elections.
We don't. It's fake.
And that child trafficking is the currency. Pedophilia, child trafficking is the currency that runs the world. Those 2 things, let's get those out there. And USAID is moving the ball. That exposure of that scandal is moving the ball forward, hugely, right? On all of this, because you see, if AI can test where the money goes, I already met a guy the other day who's way into AI, and they've tracked all of this election stuff, and they've knit together a map when they're denied information from one state, very often they can get that information from another state. And they're putting together, and this guy has an AI map of what's really been happening with our elections that is like incredible. And if AI can find out where the money goes, AI knows where the votes have gone.
That's why they want us to be afraid of AI. I'm not afraid of AI. I check. If I look things up or if I do something with AI, I will check it, but I'm not afraid of it. I think the biggest problem is they're afraid that it's going to tell.
I wondered about that.
They're afraid it's going to tell us the truth.
Right. Well, so far it is, as long, I mean, they've worked really hard to program it so it won't give you, like, I've had some fun debates with ChatGPT about political issues. It's fun. And I'll occasionally, when I ask it a question, I'll say, don't give me your bias. Just tell me what blah, blah, blah said. And it'll come back with a different answer. But I agree with you. I agree with you that anything, and this is why my books, go back to the books. This one brother in the family, he says, look, bombastic bafflegab means literally propaganda. And so he exposes propaganda, and he says, anything they're trying to make you really afraid of, you ought to not be so afraid for a while.
Right. Jump right in and find out why.
For example, all of a sudden one day when the vid wasn't working as well as they wanted it to, all of a sudden the Ukraine flag pops up everywhere. I'm like, wow, you'd kind of think this was coordinated. And you can't even go to the grocery store with them asking, would you like to donate some money to Ukraine? I'm like, no. I mean, like, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Exactly.
Once you've had a tea party laughing on the ceiling with Mary Poppins, you'll never go back. Right? You remember that in the movie, The Tea Party? They go up there and they laugh their guts out. Well, this is what I want to do. I want to teach children to go up, to see high, to be able to laugh at evil because there's a purpose. There's wonder. It's possible. And so once you've been up in wonder and you've had to look at things that are dark in the world, you can't unsee them, and you'll never go back.
Well, you won't be afraid either. I mean, when you know that God's in control, that evil is on a short leash, really. It can only go where God lets it go when you're a believer. So you don't have anything to be afraid of, nothing at all.
Yeah.
Knowing that God is in control of pretty much everything, and we can just sit back and ask him, what do you want me to do? Or what do you want us to do? And is there a way that we need to change? Are you teaching us to be braver? Are you teaching us to be more like you? Are you helping us to grow up by allowing some of these things to happen? And I would say, absolutely, he's allowing things to happen in order for us to grow up a little bit. And growing up is a painful process, especially when you take into account where we are right now. I love the concepts and how you've arranged your books to communicate. It's amazing. And it's something I'm curious about is your background. Your faith is very strong. You're very similar to me, which we have a strong faith in the salvation of people by the blood and the substitutionary death of Jesus Christ, and knowing really it is actually very logical if you go through it and you really evaluate it, not just because of what somebody else says, but because you've searched it out, you've gone to the source documents and had to ask those critical thinking questions. How did you become a Christian? What's your story?
Well, I was 5 years old. And my dad was a pastor, so it was good soil. It was just good soil. And they had, my parents had issues, but there was a lot of raw material in their lives that set the table for me to have faith in a beautiful way. So I just remember hearing the story about Jesus and going, I want to go to heaven, the streets of gold and all that. But there was another sense in I wanted my sins washed away. Even at 5, I was very sensitive to that feeling of separation when you lie, that feeling of shame when you lied, when you hid things, when you disobeyed mom and dad. And I didn't like that at all. And I wanted to be clean. So I just remember being at a church one day, and it was a different church than my dad's. And the guy gave a, salvation message. Would you like to respond? So afterwards, I pulled on my aunt's, arm. I was with her at the time. And we went and talked to this pastor. And he said the most beautiful thing. He looked at me. I'm 5. And he realizes he's got to give me pegs, little pegs, for this big story about destiny and purpose and salvation. So he pulls a quarter out of his pocket. And he says, Julie, if I were to give you this quarter, what would you have to do before it would be yours? And I think to myself, I know how this game works. I said, put it in the offering plate. And he goes, no. And I remember thinking, dang, what do you mean? That was a great answer. My dad's a pastor. We get the offering thing. Come on. And he goes, no. I went, okay. And I remember the second one was, make my bed every day. See, the first one was money laundering. I understood money laundering as a kid. The second one was human effort, perfection. And because I was trying hard at that time to be perfect. And I remember thinking, if I made my bed every day, maybe I would be. And he says to me, no. And I was like, and the third one was walk little ladies across the street. Because remember, they used to do that, right?
Right.
And he said no. And I remember thinking, dude, I covered money laundering. I covered perfection. I covered community service. And that's not going to get this, what do you want from me for this quarter? And he says, Julie, if I were to give you this quarter, the only thing you'd have to do before it would be yours would be to take it. He said, salvation's a free gift of God. You can't earn it. Would you like it? And I said, yes. And I prayed. And I've never been the same. And I remember going, but I was in an environment where my dad loved questions. He loved discussions. He loved research. And so our growing up was in a very enlivened church, and also during the Jesus Revolution of the 70s, when there was just massive amount of influx of young people having incredible, miraculous stories of finding Christ. So, and even when I went off to university, in Canada, actually, to study classical guitar performance, that was a very different world. But the reality of what had happened to me, and the way I had been allowed my mind to grow, mm-hmm. and to be able to handle discussions about difficult topics. My dad never avoided difficult topics. He never created a little hothouse, a Christian hothouse, where you can only handle certain things. So this is why one of the reasons I'm passionate about giving kids concepts that will last the test of time, so that they can handle the peer pressure. They can spot when people are wanting them to conform. They can understand that there are people that behind the scenes that pull the strings, that don't necessarily have their benefits in mind. They can understand the abuse of science and how propaganda and media is used to control. They can understand the abuse of the medical world. I do that in book 4. And in book 5, they can understand depopulation agendas and weather weaponry and global level control. And they can understand that wonder is a real realm. And it is. Ultimately, we know where it is. But I introduced the concept so that anyone, anywhere could read my books and not go, well, that's just one of those Christian books. Because let's face it, most kids in the world are not reading Christian books. They need to read. The best Christian literature is just good books with good stories. Doesn't necessarily have to have a big cross on it or something like that. We lose a lot of people when we do that. And
he was taught by parables, and almost all except for 2 of the parables he taught were accepted ones that had been taught before. I believe he only had 2 that he actually was the origin of. But he understood the power of teaching with stories and how you can bring it into full color. It's not just black and white words on a page. And then, oh yeah, I can relate to that just like your books do.
Emotional word stories he would use, like when he told the story of the guy who had a lamb and it was his favorite lamb, and then another guy comes and takes the lamb to feed it to his guests for dinner. That's what the Samuel said to David when David had the Bathsheba's husband murdered. Remember? And Samuel used an emotional word picture to get to David's heart. Because when David heard the story, you mean there was a guy who took somebody's favorite little lamb that was his pet and fed it to somebody else for dinner? David was incensed. And Samuel said, you're that man. You want to know why? Because you took that man because of what you did to a man who had one wife, a small little family, and you went in and you violated that family. That's you, David. And Jesus used emotional word pictures. So we need to use emotional word pictures. And to your point, I want to say two things. Like, God is not in control of every single thing every human being does, but he's in charge. In charge means you know how to set things up for the outcome, but he's given us choice. So the idea of partnership becomes the thing. And this is what I teach in Wonder, that the kids can partner with Wonder to make changes. And the family can partner with Wonder to make changes in the earth so they grow to be the reflection of Wonder here. You see? To move us out of passivity, to move us out of, and so I want the children to move from just being entertained to being empowered and to think, wow, they did that to us. They did that to us. That's what happened. Moms and dads would, when I tell them a little bit about it at the book fairs, that's what happened to us. And they said, well, this is why you need to give this to your kids, because somebody's going to tell them what the last 10 years mean. Somebody's told them. Well, they've already told them. There was a plague. There was a virus. We could get another one at any moment. And what about the chickens? Oh my gosh. Blah, blah, blah. And the next one, the monkeypox, the monkey virus. Or what about global warming? Or what about, the fires? They create crisis to get people to conform to their preferred solutions, right?
Which is a murder agenda from
It is. So kids have to see it and spot it and go, Mom and Dad, isn't that just like when my kids were young, I'd have these kinds of conversations with them. And so we 86'd Disney when they were kids, because one day my 12-year-old, I think he was 10 at the time, he goes, Mom, did you just see what they just did in that Disney movie? And we had been talking about the concepts. So I said, yeah. So are you ready to say goodbye to Disney? He goes, yes. You see, like if you teach them the concepts, they'll be the ones pointing out to you, that's the poo, Mom. That's the poo, the prescribed order operation, right? Because I just learned about a science called narrative behavioral science. I met somebody at CPAC who's getting a degree in narrative behavioral science. Well, this is actually a thing where I knew it, you knew it, Donna, because we homeschooled and we read to our kids. But stories change behavior.
Oh, absolutely. People aren't interested in information anymore. They kind of are, but it doesn't make a big change. So you have to tell things by stories, because I think it's a normal person gets 16 to 1700 information messages a day. It's probably higher than that now. A business owner will be about 4,000 a day that we're scrolling through. So when you're trying to cut through the clutter, just another piece of information is going to get lost in the shuffle. So you have to be able to tell a story or make something that makes it relevant to their life right now, that they can relate to,
Right. Well, there's a book series. Everybody asks me, do you know about the so-and-so kids? And I mean, they're amazing. And I'm like, well, yeah, but they're not a narrative. They're teaching concepts about capitalism versus whatever, and the twins, the so-and-so twins, you know what I mean? The Tuttle twins or whatever. And they're beautiful and they're successful and kids like them. They did start creating, I think, a cartoon that was more story-based. But I'm not interested, although I homeschooled and although you and I know we had some curricula-based materials, right? We're going to give you information. Hopefully then we did projects and we created maps and we went on field trips, so that it would be a whole experience for the child to soak in the ideas. Right.
Right.
But in the end, I really don't want to just write an infomercial for about the New World Order. You know what I mean? I really don't. I want to go into color. I want to go into symbolism. My greatest thing is, how are we going to write this now without being like C.S. Lewis? How are we going to write this now without mirroring somebody else who's like the big, icon in metaphoric literature? There have to be new ideas. So I've really strived to not fit in a box on purpose, so that ultimately you could like when I tell these stories, there'll be people who read them and go, oh my gosh, Donald Trump is an elder of the order. You know what I mean? Because it's talking about tyranny and control. And so right now, people are not always sure who the bad guys and the good guys are. I don't tell you who the bad guys are. I just tell you how they operate. So you can start to figure out, oh, maybe like last few years, a lot of my heroes turned out to be skunks. Like a lot of the people who were supposedly on the right side were, oh my gosh.
What do you think of President Trump's picks? What do you think of his nominations?
Overall, I am just let the man do his job. You know what I mean? Let him do I'm not worried about his picks. I'm not. But I'm happy to ask questions. I don't like misinformation campaigns to create crisis when it's not necessary. Dig up. He knows who's who and who they were connected to and where their money came from and sometimes a leveraged former enemy is better than a weak friend.
True story right there, because I think that you have to be a person who understands how the machine works in order to take it down. So there's a lot of stuff that we just don't know, but we can see the good works that are coming out of it, and that's really all I need to know.
I think there are problems in his midst. Absolutely. That's why I'm very, very prayerful about it all, because that's that's a very powerful thing that I can do on a daily basis to be part of the fight, as well as fighting for the kids. Honestly, of all the things we could be doing right now, get your kids these books, get your grandkids these books. If you go to thequestforwonder.com, you get the first book free with a free audiobook bonus just for showing up. Look, like literally, these books would be at least $15.95 because of the quality. This is not an Amazon KDP print to order, newsprint level thing. It's a VIP quality book, because we have to give kids something that rewards them for leaving the screen. Right. Yeah. And so you get there and you have to go. Why would you not want book one free? Like, just give me shipping and handling and I barely break even. Okay. And you get this beautiful book and you get the audiobook. So if you're a grandma or a mom and you're super busy, although you should be reading, you could listen to the audiobook, or maybe your kids are reading it and listening. So the content, so the conversations to have with your kids. Isn't that great? And then you stay on the book on my website. Stay, please. And you can get books 2 and 3, which is really where the meat is, with telling them the harder stuff in a super exciting way. So, and as soon as these are wildly successful, then I'm printing books 4 and 5 because they're ready to go. They're ready to go.
That's awesome. Well, I thank you so much for being on today and sharing your story and the books and such. I always end with a prayer. Would you like to pray, or would you like me to?
Oh my gosh. Why don't you pray? I would love that.
Okay. Yeah. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. I like listening to how, other people pray too, but I can certainly pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for Julie, and thank you for Vicky and all the wonderful people that have agreed to come on here. And we do this all for free, as far as to get the words out and the message out, to teach, to educate, and to try to help everyone get to the basis of cutting through this fog that's around us. There's so much fog out there. And we know that you're not the author of chaos. You are the author of of honesty. It's always clear where you are. It's our distraction that takes us away from your direction and the ability to see through the nonsense that's out there. Thank you so much for all the good people who are fighting behind the scenes. And I know that there's a lot of them out there. We ask your blessings on President Trump, on General Flynn, on Admiral Rogers, and on all the wonderful people that are truly fighting behind the scenes to restore this nation to the constitutional republic, which it is. Today, I ask that you would help people see the ridiculousness of the word democracy, because it is being used as a tool for propaganda to lead people astray, and the mechanisms and the entities behind it, which are using those terms to lead us astray. We also want to make sure that you know that we're not going to worship the knowledge that's in front of us, but that we would study to show ourselves approved of the original source documents, and to put our faith entirely in you. This is your sandbox, your realm, your place. We're willing to do whatever it is that you ask us to do because we love you. And our faith is not in what we know. It's not in knowledge. It's not in our actions, as to Julie's point. It is our faith in you and that you're good all the time. And we're so thankful for that. Thank you for guiding us and providing for us. Thank you for healing us when we're sick. We ask special blessings on those that are in our thoughts and our prayers to help them through the difficulties that they're having today. I know a lot of people who are sick right now, and ask for your special favor to be upon them for healing and for direction, if they need direction, to know what to do to help themselves to get healthier. Thank you so very much for everything you've done for us. You're a wonderful friend to us, and we want to be a friend to you in all things. Whatever you ask us to do, we're willing to do. Just show us the path to go on and give us the feet to walk the path in front of us. We're not asking for an easy path. We're asking us for the guts and the strength to be your strength to walk whichever path you put ahead of us. And we just love you so very, very much. In the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, we pray. Amen.
That was great, Donna. You covered it all. I just want to tell people that if you search for any of my books, it's not like you're going to come directly. If you went to julielavender.com, there's a link to the page. But the best way is you have to type it in, thequestforwonder.com, or else you're going to get like a national park. You're going to get a national park website. And then there's so much information there. So more about the books and pictures of the books. But I'm so thankful, Donna. Really, I was really blown away that we're at CPAC with all of this stimulation and everybody running around and everybody's got things. And you were just standing there quietly, just listening.
I spend actually a lot of time listening. I can talk, but I actually would prefer to listen over talking. But I will fill the space if it's necessary. But I love listening to what people have to say, because I like to learn. And you don't learn when you're yourself talking. You only learn when you listen to other people who are willing to share what they know. And so, I think that that's a paradigm change that has to happen in the United States, is not to defend our position or to listen with the mind of responding, but to listen purely for information and being okay with the fact that we may be wrong on our positions that we hold so dearly, because we may have gotten there through propaganda rather than truth. So the only way you do get to truth is to listen and be able to say, well, it's what I know right now. But if more information comes forward, I want to know truth. I don't want to know a preconceived notion. And I'm not going to defend something that's not true if there's more information that comes forward. So, and I love that. I just really enjoyed our visit there so much. And you spent a lot of time teaching me and sharing what you've done. And I was just really thankful. It wasn't one of those it wasn't a shallow conversation. It was a wonderful, meaningful conversation in the middle of a hallway
crazy.
with a million things going on around us, and we were right there present. And I love that. I love being present, and I love it when people can be present like you did. So with that said, guys, you know how to find Julie and her books. And with that said, here we go, boys and girls. Ding, ding, ding. This is where we go to brandenburgforgovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who's ever not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And I'd like to have a discussion with President Trump, the rightful president of the United States, who was the rightful president of the United States at 2020's fraudulent, stolen, rigged illusion of an election. And we stand with him because he's one of us, and he was attacked. And when one of us is attacked, all of us is attacked. So we have to stand for those things that we know are correct and right, and part of the constitutional republic that we are on. We are not a democracy. That is the most unstable form of governance that there is out there. So we've got to eliminate that. And when somebody uses the word democracy, just like, okay, hold the phone. What does this mean? And how are you applying this? There are elements of that in our society, but we're not a democracy. And it just shows a low IQ when somebody throws it out there, or lack of knowledge of what we really have. So getting in, digging through things and finding the truth is what we're all about. And with that said, God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day. You have that ability to do that. So take it and run with it. And we will be back on tomorrow with John Tater and Lawful Defense. So stay on the line, Julia, and I'm going to end it right now. And then we'll see you all tomorrow.